this is from a mom who says, my son is 12 years old and I noticed that he's watching porn videos. I'm very upset and I'm unsure on how to counsel him. Will you kindly guide me? So Alison, from your perspective as a Christian counselor, what would your response be to this mom asking this question?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I so sympathize with her. That's so uncomfortable for a parent. Not only that, like, you're seeing your little baby grow up and change and experience all these like hormones and drives that he's not used to. It's just, you want your kids to foster their sexuality well. And so it can be so uncomfortable. So I feel for that mom. That's so challenging. That's so challenging.
Yeah, I really can't imagine being in that situation. I mean, I may be in that someday, but, I really can't imagine being in a situation like that. I think of even myself, when I was a teenager and started being exposed to things like that, and how it affected me, but, how it would affect a parent.
I know. And especially because pornography is so pervasive, like it's everywhere. Sexual content is everywhere right now. And so I just feel for parents, there's like so much to protect against in the current climate. But first off, I think for that mom, the first thing that I would say would be to, as best you can, normalize the sexual urges that her son is experiencing, right? What we don't want to do is shame that child into thinking that his sexuality is a bad thing, because it's not. It's designed by God to be good. And so to come alongside her son and to correct behavior, because we don't want him getting addicted to pornography or like having that be a coping skill that he uses. So to come alongside him and talk about like respecting other people's bodies, respecting women, respecting men, and saying like those things are private, those things are meant for just a husband and a wife behind closed doors. Like they're not meant for us to watch. Like that's not okay. That's not respectful. We want those boundaries to be in place for him, right? That he understands why that's not okay, because it violates God's view of sex and sexuality. But then to also affirm like, yes, your hormones are changing. Yes, you have these desires. Yes, it feels good when you touch yourself, right? Like that feels good. You have a lot of nerve endings in your body in that area. And to just normalize that that feels good and that it's supposed to feel good. That's how God designed it. But that there's a time and a place to engage with that kind of a behavior, right? So that you're affirming his sexuality and not shaming him for that, but you're also coming alongside him and providing a healthy, godly view of how to engage with that and how to use that.
That's great advice. And, she kind of mentioned, I don't know if I said this, but that he's watching it when he's alone, which, of course is typical, but, how do you kind of fight against that? Because, a mom can say that, but, the urges come later on and the kid's alone and things like that. So like that happening when they're alone.
Oh my gosh, such a great question. I know that's so hard because like I said, it's pervasive. It's pervasive. So one thing I will say is there is a lot of different like softwares out there that help protect against specific content being loaded or viewed. So there's things like Covenant Eyes that you can look into and get and download onto your son's devices, laptops, phone, tablets, whatever he has access to, so that there is a filter that it doesn't let some content go through, or it sends kind of like a little warning to whoever has control over the filtering software that that's happening, that behavior is being engaged with, that certain things are being watched. So I think that's a great resource for parents to put those barriers, put those protections on technology. There's also different softwares and apps you can get that put timers on different applications on their devices. So you can make it so that like you can't access certain things like web browsers at certain times of day. So like anything past like 10 p.m. through like 6 a.m. you can't access those things.
Right. Because I would say, when you're just kind of surfing online for a long period of time, like it's much easier probably to come across some content that you shouldn't be seeing.
Right, exactly. And there's a lot of apps these days have kind of like these backdoor sketchy things. So I think it's just also being aware of what your kid has on their phone, like what your child is exposing themselves to, and just doing a little research of what is here, what's available to them through that app. And then having a conversation. I'm always a big fan of actually talking to your kids and having open dialogues with them about some of the stuff, like why it's happening, why you're doing it, why it's important to you, just so it doesn't feel like punishment for the sake of punishment, right? We don't want it to be punitive, because parents want to set these things up for their kids because they care about them and they want to protect their little hearts and their little minds, right? And as parents, like, you have more wisdom and knowledge and experience, you know better, right? So just sharing that wisdom with your kids, like as you put those parameters in place, I think is also helpful. Whether they get it now, hopefully they understand it and appreciate it later.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think, that last part, you're talking about honesty and just transparency in those conversations. I've talked with some of the other counselors when questions like this have been asked before, because this is a question we get because it is very common. So to this mama, you're not alone in that situation. Like, this does happen. Quite often. And, something I hear from a lot of counselors is, of course, it's okay if this has never been an open conversation, and that can change, and we can start that. But it's so important just from a young age for kids to understand their bodies and understand what's not appropriate for someone to touch, what's not appropriate for you to see, things like that. Just how important that is from a very young age to be an open conversation with parents.
Yes, exactly. And then you're opening that door, like as that kid continues throughout life, and it won't be the last time that he's exposed to sexual content in the world, right? So you're opening up that dialogue so that as he goes through junior high, high school, all the conflicting messages that kids get these days about sex and sexuality, that door has been opened. And that he'll feel hopefully safe coming to talk to the parents, talk to the mama about what's going on inside of him.
Yeah. Hopefully that is an encouraging answer to the mom who asked this, and know that you're not alone, and that this is something that happens a lot, and there are resources for you to be helped and be encouraged, but you're doing a good thing. And I just appreciate the heart of that question. I appreciate that mom just was like, please guide me. Like, what do I do? Like, you didn't just find out and just kind of push it aside. You care about the safety of your child and the safety of their mind. So I think that is just a really beautiful thing, a really mom's heart to see.